Dear teachers, good evening and a very, very warm welcome to each one of you. Today's webinar is sixth in the series of webinars that is leading to Teachathon 2021. This year's Teachathon is scheduled on September 17th, 18th and 19th, and the focus is National Education Policy. NEP aims to transform the culture of assessment in the country. In a country where exams seem to be the reason for many students for studying, where a single exam seems to make or break a student's career, where students' attendance in tuition classes is better than the regular classrooms in higher grades, where students choose scoring subjects as early as 5th grade, NEP's stance on exams and assessments comes as a breath of much needed fresh air. Under NEP, board exams are expected to be redesigned to encourage holistic development and discourage coaching culture and undue focus on exam preparation. These exams will start to test core capabilities and competencies instead of content memorization and recall, as you're all aware. Policies that there will be continuous tracking of the learning outcomes of each child, and the assessment will focus on core concepts, both foundational and higher order, are a welcome change. This also means that the schools need to build capacity and capability of teachers to undertake assessments as learning, off learning, and for learning to assist their teachers to cross over from the current system. The assessment on higher order thinking skills, HOTS, analysis, critical thinking, creativity, conceptual clarity, etc., has been around for some time, albeit in a very limited way. However, with the focus from the National Education Policy, this devil is getting its due. The topic for today's webinar is therefore appropriately titled Assessment to Focus on Higher Order Thinking Skills. Helping us navigate this maze is Ms. Vidya Nagaraj. Alvin Toffler famously said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn and relearn." Our speaker for today's webinar, Ms. Vidya Nagaraj, identifies herself with this quote and practices it. Currently, she is the principal at Delhi World Public School, Tumkur Road, Bangalore. Ms. Vidya's teaching career spans 2 decades, and she has been in various leadership roles for the last 10. Her subject specialization is history, and she is passionate about making history meaningful to her students. With a postgraduate degree in history and bachelor's of education, Ms. Vidya started her journey as a teacher at the prestigious Vidyashilp Academy, Bangalore, one of the earliest progressive schools. And later on, she went on to head the Department of History and Civics. She has trained the students for Model United Nations at both national and international levels. As the founder principal of DPS Mysore Road and Delhi World Public School, Tumkur Road, Bangalore, she has played a key role in establishing the schools right from inception. Her other interests include reading, yoga, traveling, and blogging. She has also been a Toastmaster for 7 years, and she has completed the Advanced Communication Bronze level. We are fortunate to have you with us today, ma'am. We look forward to an interesting discussion. Over to you.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Ms. Lata and Ms. Sumati for giving me this opportunity. And I also thank the Indian Institute of Education Management for giving me this platform to share what little bit I know. And today I would like to start this session with a story. So for all the audience who are here, you can either have a notepad and note down the questions at the end of it, or you can also key in the chat box. The story that I have taken this evening is The Story of Two Brothers by Leo Tolstoy. So it's a very short story, and I will be using some slides for some part of the story, and the rest of it I will be narrating it. So are we all ready to start? Are we all ready to hear the story?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So there were once upon a time, long, long ago, two brothers, and they were walking through a forest, and they were really very tired. At this point of time, the two brothers decided to just sit there for some time. So they had their meal that they were carrying along, and decided to rest under a tree. Now the brothers slept under the tree and woke up after a while. When they woke up, they saw a stone that was lying right next to them. And on the stone, there was an inscription. And I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll be using the screen to share. Give me a moment, please. So on the stone, this is what was etched. Whoever finds this stone, they read, let him go straight into the forest, and at the end of the forest, and at the end of the for sorry, I'll read again. Whoever finds the stone, they read, let him go straight into the forest at sunrise. In the forest, a river will appear. Let him swim across the river to the other side. There, he will find a she bear and her cubs. Let him take the cups from her and run up the mountain with them without once looking back. On top of the mountain, he will see a house, and in that house, he will find happiness. Now, this was a quote that was there on the stone slab. The younger brother and the two brothers read this quote, and they decided what to do about it. Now, the younger brother was very excited, and he decided that the two brothers must go together. They must swim, they must find the river, swim across the river, go and find the cups, and climb up the mountain together and see what kind of a future is in store for them. Now, when he shared his excitement with the older brother was not very open to that. He was really speculating the whole thing. First and foremost thing, he was not even sure if this particular inscription was placed there as a joke by someone, and he also questioned the authenticity of it. What if it is really true or not? Nobody knew about that. He felt this was not a risk worth taking. Here was his logic. He said, suppose we go into the forest and night comes and we cannot find the river. We shall be lost. And if you do find the river, how are we going to cross across it? It may be broad and swift. In the third place, even if we swim across the river, do you think it is an easy thing to take her cups from the she bear? She will seize us, and instead of finding happiness, we shall perish, and all for nothing. In the fourth place, even if we succeeded in carrying off the bear cubs, we could not run up the mountain without stopping to rest. So, as you can see, the older brother was not convinced. He was really not sure if it was the right thing to do. Was it really worth taking this kind of a risk and putting their lives at risk? So, he questioned the entire thing. He was trying to convince his younger brother that it was not worth taking the effort to take this kind of an adventurous trip and they should just stay put. So, that was his idea. But whereas the younger brother was very sure that he wanted to take this chance and go and see what was there ahead of them. So, after much convincing and trying to convince and argue and everything, it was decided that the younger brother would definitely want take the chance, and he decided that it was worth taking that chance and going to see what kind of future was there ahead of him. So, the older brother stayed back, and the younger brother decided to go ahead in the journey. So he did manage to find the river. He swam across the river. He also found the bear cubs. He picked up the bear cubs, climbed up the mountain, and when he went on top, he saw that there were a group of people who were there to welcome him, and he was made the king of a small kingdom. The younger brother went on to become the king, and he ruled over the small, tiny kingdom happily for the next 5 years of time. He was very happy, his subjects were very happy, and he was leading a comfortable life. At the end of the fifth year, a neighboring king, who was much more stronger than this king, decided to invade the kingdom. So he invaded his kingdom, and in the battle that was fought, the younger brother, that is the king, he lost the battle, and with that, he lost everything. So he had to give up his kingdom and he started to wander once again. So the younger brother wandered for a while and finally managed to locate his older brother. The older brother was now a farmer with a small patch of his own land. Now, when the two brothers met, they were extremely happy with each other. They were happy to have seen each other after a long time. They sat down and they decided to sit down and talk about their past 5 years of time. At this point of time, the older brother asked him, like I told you, that it was not worth taking this kind of a trip. And like here you said, see, I was right. Here I've lived quietly and well, while you, though you may have been a king, see, you've seen a great deal of trouble. To which the younger brother replied, I have no regrets having gone into the forest and up the mountain. I may have nothing now, but I shall always have something to remember, while you have no memories at all. So you can, as you can see, the younger brother did not regret the choice that he made. He was happy to have taken that particular chance, and experienced all that life had to offer him for those five years of time. And he came back, and both the brothers continued to stay together. This is a story by Leo Tolstoy, as I said, the story of two brothers. Now, I would request the audience to take 2-3 minutes of time and note down the questions. And if you're comfortable, you can put it up in the chat box for the others to see. You want some time? Can we all take 2 minutes of your time and note down the questions that has come up for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Please don't hesitate. There is no right question and wrong question. There's no correct or wrong question. Just feel comfortable to either note it down or put it in the chat box.
Ma'am, have you shared the questions on your screen, ma'am?
No. You have to come up with the questions.
Oh, we have to come up
You
with
have
the
to come up with the questions
Okay.
for the story that you've heard. Thank you for your responses. Now, as educators, we have used Bloom's taxonomy all our life to prepare our lesson plans. Now, I want the teachers to take another 2 minutes, and you've written down some questions, or you've seen the other participants also have listed few questions. Can you see what kind of questions that you have written? And if you can, correlate the questions with the Bloom's taxonomy, can you see what kind of questions have you written? Is it something to do with recall or evaluate or analyze, apply, understand, and remember? So as I said, we are not testing anyone's ability here. So you can do this comparison by yourself. Look at the kind of questions that you have written or someone else in the audience has written, and see, is there any question that relates to the Bloom's taxonomy? Where can you relate it with? Correlate it rather. Would anyone want to share if you feel that your questions that you had come up with was in sync with the Bloom's taxonomy? Maybe one or two responses would be good at this point of time. Can I request anyone from the audience to share your question and connect it with the Bloom's taxonomy?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, namaste, ma'am.
Good evening.
My question was, who was wiser, younger one or elder one?
Okay.
Yeah, I feel that it should fall into evaluate, because children will be judging with the ideas and information what they have. They will be judging, and they will be applying this, apply and evaluate. And whenever there is a situation, they will apply such similar situation. Should it be a task which can create memory or just the plain life? So I think evaluate and apply would be Therefore, my question.
Wonderful response. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? One more response.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
And my question is, do you agree with the younger brother's idea?
Okay. And
so the child here will analyze and also evaluate himself.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your response. One more last response. One last response before we move further.
Ma'am, can I?
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ma'am, this is Veena. What according to you would be a perfect ending? So this will come under creating.
Creating. Okay. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your responses. Moving ahead. Now, let me ask you again, as educators, as adults, what new skills have all of us or have you learned in the past 1.5 years in this COVID? Again, you can write your responses in the chat box. What new skill have you learned in the past 1.5 years? Yes, certainly technology, exploring technology, integration of ICT, technology. Okay, somebody has learned how to speak in Sanskrit, writing quotes and poems, patience, yes, handling virtual classes. So a lot of you have written technology. Is it something that we learned in school while we were growing up? My next question, are these skills that we learned when we were in school as students, maybe 25, 30 years ago or any time? Yeah, minimum living needs. Did we learn how to manage? Did we have a lesson in financial planning? Did our schools teach us how to build, how to inculcate patience? Okay, so all of you agree that there are skills that we're using today, which is very important, which is need of the hour, but which we were not taught while we were in school. We didn't learn these skills, whether it is financial planning or how to develop patience or technology or teaching, integrating art in our subjects or even teaching through technology. We didn't learn any of it in our college or in our school, but yet we are here trying to learn these, or we have learned this on our own and we have brought it into our life. One second. So next question is, what skills will our children need 10 years from now? We are all preparing our children in school. So in 2030, what kind of skills will our children who pass out of our schools or colleges require in the future? Robotics, correct. Critical thinking. Any other response? Self-analysis, adaptation, life skills, creativity, a lot of 21st century. Most of you have discussed the 21st century. Now, do you think we are preparing our school children to face this 2030 or 2040? Are we preparing our, do you think our schools are equipped enough and our teachers are doing the right thing to cater to 10 children for the future? Some of you have said yes, some of you have said not enough. Then now that we are having that realization, how do you think we can prepare our children for the future? What lies ahead of us is very uncertain. We are living in a very uncertain, unpredictable world. So how do you think we can prepare our children for the future? What can we do as educators to prepare our children to face the future? Okay, real life problems, correct. Any other suggestion? Hands-on experience. Method of teaching should change. Problem solving. So all of us agree. So as educators, we all know that these are the things that we need to do. You know, you've all given me the perfect answer, reply. Give a blend of values and technology, real life problems, and give them problems to solve, critical thinking. then what is stopping us from doing this in our classrooms? Yes, teachers need a new belief system, very important. Now, why do you think we are not able to do this? What are our challenges? What is stopping us from doing this? Okay, curriculum, time constraint, ability to adapt. Okay, very important. Exam oriented, very true. Old mindset, yes, that is very important. I am glad I've got these responses. Okay, now why do you think we need to focus on hearts at this point of time? Why is it that suddenly all of us have woken up to the fact that we really need to focus on higher order thinking skills at this point of time? Bloom's taxonomy has been around for many years, many decades together, and all of us have used it. Yes, NEP, the National Education Policy, the new education policy has made it essential for all of us, because now suddenly, as all of you know, the focus is now shifted towards competency-based learning and assessment. So that is the reason why all of us are here. But again, this, as all of you told me, we are all educators and you know what is the need of the hour, and we knew what were the challenges. But again, what is stopping us from doing? Again, you've given me that answer yourself. But if we have to make this successful, if we have to bring it as a practice in our schools, what do you think we need to do? First and foremost thing, I think schools across India must be willing to accept this new policy that has come out, not just as a policy because it is there and we have to adapt and we have to embrace, but unless and until, as someone rightly pointed out, unless and until our belief system changes, only then can we bring about this change in the education system. Now, all of us have been in CBSE, or many of us who've been in CBSE have at least worked with CC at one point of time. Now, CC was also introduced with a lot of plan, a lot of objectives, with great vision, but unfortunately, it did not do well. If you ask me, this is my personal opinion. If you were to ask me why was that CC did not work, my biggest response would be that the teachers and schools used CCE only as an assessment tool. We never used it as a teaching tool. We never made the shift in our pedagogy. That's where the challenge was. So even now, unless and until the schools bring about that change, that yes, a change in our belief system, that we need to bring about this change, only then it's going to happen. The next is teachers. Now, teachers are the important stakeholders here. They are the ones who are going to make it possible. And if this is going to become a new way of teaching, then again teachers must undergo a huge mind shift. Again, to move from a teacher centered teaching to a student centered teaching can only happen when the teacher undergoes this belief system. So we may attend a lot of webinars and do a lot of workshop, but unless and until I am convinced about it, only then this change is going to happen. So I think teachers are again a very important partners in this. Without them, we will not be able to do. The second one is parents. Again, I say parents here because a lot of our own parents have gone to traditional schooling system where they have gone to the rote method of teaching and learning. So when you're trying to bring about a huge paradigm shift in education and you don't include the parents, they're going to be left out. So tomorrow you're definitely going to have parents who are going to come knocking on the doors of school, asking us to explain why we are doing it and why not do this. So again, parents, creating an awareness among the parents is very important. Next is the marks-oriented society. As some of you said, we are living in a country where we are obsessed with marks. Finland, Sweden, or Norway, if any of these countries were able to bring such a huge shift in their education system, it was because the entire change was just not at the school or education level, but the change happened across the entire nation. So again, we need to move and create that awareness among the society. I think I would say that the government will also have to come up with how today vaccination or mask and other COVID related campaigns are going on a huge scale to create an awareness among the people. Similar kind of awareness has to happen across the entire nation to make this change possible. And then moving further, we also have to shift our, if this is going to be possible, again, our pedagogy in the classroom must change. We need to start looking at it from the student's point of view and have student-centered learning in the classroom, only then finally the assessment is going to happen. But if you're going to put assessment in the beginning and then plan ahead, then it will not be able to survive, and we are going to start facing a lot of hurdles. And again, it may meet the same kind of fate as our CCE. This is what I would say. 1 second. Now, where are we going to look for HOTS, higher order thinking? All of us know that we need to bring this and into our assessment, into our lesson plan and everywhere. But how can we bring about this into our everyday life? So first and foremost thing, I think when teachers start preparing the question paper, most often we only look at the textbook. But now teachers must move away from textbook and look at other sources wherein we can get ideas for higher order thinking skill. One place where we most often ignore or fail to look at is the children's notebook. Of course, today it is online, so you must be relying more on the interaction in the classroom and their responses. But otherwise, when they're going to come back to physical classroom, having a look at children's notebook would give us an idea about where is it that, what kind of understanding have they had about a particular concept? What mistakes are they doing? What frequent mistake? We need to start looking and analyzing the children's notebook for us to get ideas to frame our question papers. Newspapers. I think I'm very sure all of us know there are a lot of current affairs and other things that we can bring into our question paper and into our lesson plan through the newspapers. Books. I'm talking about books beyond our curriculum books. As educators, we really need to invest and start doing a lot of reference, cross-curriculum, and again, books outside of the curriculum. Cross-curricular connection. Today, that's what the NAP is again focusing on. How can we bring a relevant between math and art, or music and math? So try and bring in those cross-curricular connection. Whenever you're making a lesson plan, see where is it that you can bring in this connection. Observation, like a lot of things around us, we fail to observe and connect the outside world with the inside, what is happening within the four walls of the classroom. So that is something we really need to bring in. And industry and real life situation. So whether we are teaching math or whether we are teaching political science or whether we are teaching art, we must connect it with the industry today. That's when they're going to understand the relevance of it, the impact of it. And real life situation is what we need to bring in more often into our classrooms and even also in our higher order thinking skills. Now, again, the questions that we ask as teachers, what kind of questions are we asking? Are we just asking only the factual questions while interacting or engaging the children in the class? Now it's time, if you want to bring about this into our assessment, we must also change the way we ask our questions in the classroom. So teachers must go beyond the factual questions and start looking at background questions. For example, if I were to tell you the story, if these two brothers had to make that kind of decision, what kind of a background do you think they would have had? What kind of upbringing do you think they would have had? What were the circumstances? A lot of background questions can be asked. Speculative questions. What would have happened if the other brother also had gone together? If both the brothers could have gone together and explored what was there ahead of them. Speculative questions. Interpretive questions. Now, why do you think the younger brother says that, irrespective of the fact that he failed as a king and he was defeated, yet he felt that he had some memories? Interpretive questions. Again, these questions are not questions that we can ask only in literature or in social science. These are questions that can be asked also even in other subjects as well. So again, the questions that we ask in the classroom must lead to higher order thinking in the classroom for the children to start getting used to it. When again, something else that we've not done is evaluative questions. We've never focused on these. So again, first and foremost, saying the questions that we ask in our classrooms must change, must give way to higher order thinking skills for us to be able to bring this into our assessments as well. Emphasis on evidence. Whenever we teach, our focus is so much on factual information, but we never emphasize on the evidence. For example, where does this happen in the story? Or where does this happen in the experiment? Or where does this happen in the question or in the math problem that you're solving? So again, teaching the children to look for evidence. What part of the story did you made you feel like, or think that, or made you, think along those lines? Again, this is again based on evidence. What would you have done in this situation? Why do you think you would have done something like this? So our questioning system in the classroom must certainly change. In what sequence did the event or experiment occur? These are some of the questions that we can start looking at it while we are preparing for our lessons or engaging the children in the classroom. For example, all of us know these are very simple examples that I've taken. We have talked about the rotation revolution, and we ask why does the earth rotate, or what is impact and all that. But for example, let's assume that for a moment that the earth does not rotate on its axis. What kind of impact will it have? How does it impact you, or how will it affect you? This is something that will really make the children think. The earth does not go around the sun, then what do you think will happen? How is it going to impact our everyday life? These are questions that we can certainly ask. Like, again, this is a huge debated topic right now in the country. What could be done to produce more of Nobel Prize or Olympic medals? Again, this could lead to a lot of questions, again, reasoning questions, debate, which can be used in a lot of other subjects. How do you think life has evolved on other, today we have traveled to outer space as well. So how do you think life has evolved in other planets? Again, like very creative questions, or you can also look at it in different sense. Do you think we can communicate with these aliens if they exist? If so, how do you think we can establish this kind of a connection between them? So these are some of the questions. We talk about monsoons, but do we talk about how does it set in? And there's so much more to it. So these are the kind of questions that we can ask our children in the classrooms to make them think, and then eventually bring it into our classroom. Now, I've taken few examples that we can use from our everyday life. These are simple experiments or things that I'm very sure right now, even with the classes being online, children will certainly be able to connect with it. Let's assume a packet of chips, salted chips. After you eat a packet of salted chips, certainly we're going to feel thirsty. Now, why do you think we want to drink water after we have this packet of salted chips? What happens in our body when the sodium level increases, or does it decrease? And the first response when we feel, after we have eaten a packet of chips, maybe to drink water. Why do you think we drink water? What kind of reaction would sodium have on the water, or water on the sodium? These are simple questions that can be asked and triggered, and that can be brought about in the classroom. Again, popcorn. I'm very sure all of us here have used this popcorn experiment to teach the kindergarten or grade 1 children about sense organs. But do you know the same popcorn can also be used as an question for senior classes while teaching math? Again, if you look at the popcorn, the way it is made, there are a lot of questions that can be asked. At what temperature do you think the seeds are going to pop up? Why is it's going to pop up only at that particular temperature? What about the atmospheric pressure there? Okay, what happens to the vapor which is there within that, in that entire process? And why does it fluff up? What makes it fluffy? Or can we bring it back to the original state? Again, in that you can see certain seeds would not have fluff. Why do you think not all of them fluff up? So these are all questions, again, that can be related to science concept. Again, chemical reaction. Is baking a chemical reaction? All of us know that we use sodium bicarbonate while baking a cake. Now, what happens in this process? What kind of reaction does baking powder or the sodium bicarbonate have with the other ingredients that is used in that? Now, what happens when you forget to add the baking powder? What kind of an result would you get? Or can we bring the ingredients back into the original ingredients? These are some of the questions. Again, you talk about irreversible and reversible change, and a lot of other chemical reactions, temperature. A lot of these questions can be asked through this. Story-based pedagogy. Azim Premji Foundation, Pratham Books, these have done extensive work in bringing story as a pedagogy, story-based pedagogy in our classrooms. Can someone identify what this particular image is? Can anyone identify that? Can anyone identify what is that particular image? Any responses? What is the image that you see on the screen? Okay, no idea. That is the first stethoscope that was ever made. Now, there's a story behind how the stethoscope was made. Now, René Laennec was a young man who was assisting his uncle in his clinic. Now, back in those days, when the doctors had to hear to the heartbeat of the patients, they would take the ear close to the chest and then they would listen to the heartbeat. One day, while Rene was in his clinic, there was a woman who came and she was quite, heavy. She was obese, and he felt very uncomfortable putting his ear on her chest and listening to the heartbeat. But he had to listen to the heartbeat. So he was wondering what to do at that point of time. When he looked around his clinic, he saw there was a paper. So he picked up that paper, he rolled up the paper, and he used that to listen to the heartbeat. And to his surprise, he realized that he could listen. That's when he had that aha moment and came up with the idea of a stethoscope. This is the first stethoscope that was ever made. And like again, this can lead to a lot of questions. You can ask, why do you think he used this particular wood at that point of time? How do you think he would have heard? What made it possible? What do you think would have happened if he had used any other material or metal or something else? A lot of questions can come about when we use story-based pedagogy. Again, this is something that we all can use. This is Maria Spelterini. She was the first woman to cross over the Niagara Fall. And if you can see in her hand, she has a huge pole that she used to balance. And if you can see, she also had a basket that she tied it on her legs to walk. So this was a huge feat for her. Now, again, there are a lot of questions that you can ask here. Why do you think she used such a lengthy rod for balance? Why not use a shorter one? Again, that will lead you to a lot of science questions and science answers. This is again from the recent, this is again current affairs. This is something that all of us know. They have used a lot of electronic waste from mobile phones and other phones to convert that into 32 kilos of gold, again 3,500 kgs of silver, and 2,200 kgs of bronze to create 5,000 Olympic and Paralympic medals. Now, what kind of, do you think every single part of the mobile phone could have been recycled? What kind of metals would have been extracted? How do you think this process would have happened? Recycle, reuse, a lot of, again, environment science and science concepts can be brought in and questioned in this entire process at different levels. Again, what I'm sharing from here is what we have done at Delhi World Public School and used in our question papers and assessments in recent times. Now, this is analyzing the advertisement. This can be used in language as well as social science. If you can see, this is again, all the three of them are, the first two are advertisements, of course. This is an aerial advertisement where the mother is teaching the boy that, laundry is every man's job, and it is again breaking the gender stereotype. And again, here you have a Usha sewing machine where back in those days, it was very important for the mother to train her daughter to be an ideal housewife. So you can do a lot of comparison. In social science, you also have gender stereotype chapter that is there. So you can also use that for that. And if you can see, this is again, the last image is again, this can be used again to talk about gender issues or other things. So use of advertisements in the question paper to talk about various, you can use these advertisements in different ways. It's again up to your creativity. We have used this in our English class as English assessment as well as in social science. Predicting the outcome. This is again, this can be used in different subjects. We have used it in social science. Now, what do you think would have been the impact of Alexander's invasion of India? Or what was the impact, what kind of changes happened in our society as a result of Bhakti and Sufi movement? Now, if the Indians had won the 1857 revolt, what do you think would have been, who would have ruled, or what kind of changes would you have seen in India? If the princely states had continued to exist in India after independence, what do you think would have happened? If there was no provision for constitutional remedy in our constitution, what do you think would have happened? Again, these are some of the questions that we have asked. Comparing the pictures, again, this is something that we've done in our question papers. This is again because you have about urbanization and how cities were built and those kind of changes. If you can see, we've taken two images of Bangalore in the past and in the present. And based on that, we have asked these questions that connect the past and the present. And again, it talks about the changes that have taken place in the society. And why do you think, if you look at these questions, then it also goes beyond just the factual information. There is observation, there is analysis, a lot of questions that can come up with just these images that I have before you. Newspaper and current affairs is again another way to bring in higher order thinking questions. All of us have this fundamental rights as well as directive principles of state policy. And when we teach, we usually ask them to list it. But what if you give incidences from around us that are found in our everyday newspaper and news, and ask them to analyze what kind of fundamental rights was violated here, or what fundamental right was upheld here? So these are the questions that you can ask, and again, make the children think. This is also another way to bring the newspaper and current affairs into our classrooms and make them think, discuss, and it could lead to a lot of healthy debates and discussions in the classrooms. Cartoon in science. Now, if you've been a IGCSE teacher, IGCSE has this concept in them where they have used cartoon for a very, very long time. But now, today, CBSE also has brought this. And if you've seen the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th standard social science paper, you can see a lot of cartoon sources that are being used. I have given this punch. It's a website where you can get a lot of cartoons that are related to European events, which you can easily download it. Again, this is again from our recent question paper where we've used this to talk about the first one is Syrian election. So this is a political cartoon that I have used to make the question paper for 9th standard civics. And the other side, you can see this is again from the Russian Revolution. So this was a source-based questions that we've used. So again, you can bring in cartoons in social science and other different aspects and other different subjects as well. What about the other cartoons? If you've seen, Amul has a plethora of cartoons available, and their cartoons keep changing every day, and it relates to current affairs. So you can bring in this again. We talked about this particular cartoon when we asked the children to talk about India and the neighboring countries. Again, this is R.K. Lakshman's cartoon. If you've seen, again, R.K. Lakshman's cartoons are some things that you can relate it to a lot of issues that we can bring in political science or history or other subjects as well. So bringing cartoons to question paper is going to certainly make it creative and bring in a lot of critical thinking as well. Use of current affairs. If you look at our everyday newspaper, there's so much of information that is available there. If you look at these two, again, you can use it for math, social science, economics. A lot of these questions can be generated from these two information or infographics that you have. If you look at the one who are India's unemployed, again, you can use it for various math related concept, percentage or numbers or ascending, descending order, depending on which class you're teaching and what is the math concept that you're testing, you can use it accordingly. Same thing with this. Again, both one we have used it, who are India's unemployed was used in economics question paper, and the other one, vaccination, was used for math question paper in grade 9. So these are current affairs that you can bring in. These are there in everyday newspapers that you can bring it and apply it in your question paper. Advertisements. The lot of advertisements that are available around us. This is again from the question paper. Here we've taken the advertisement and used it as a reading and comprehension in our English paper. Now, most often if you see English reading and comprehension is always unseen passage. But if you actually go out, very rarely children have to read something and fine. You don't get a lengthy passage every day. If you walk around or if you go in our everyday life, maybe when you go to the, maybe let's take you're boarding a flight, you need to see the, like boarding number or all those kind of information. If you were to go to the railway station, you would have to identify which platform your train is arriving at. Or if you're reading a, like newspaper, you may be looking for one particular information. If you're looking for a property, maybe you're looking for something related to that. Or if you're looking at maybe applying for new jobs, you will be looking at one specific kind of advertisement. So again, advertisement is something that you can bring in for English literature and use it in your question paper for English or any kind of language assessment. These kind of advertisements are all around us. Again, we've used it for grammar. So we've given these advertisements and asked the children to either change the tenses or the voice, and you can be as creative as you want, and you can use it for different grammar concepts to frame questions in the question paper. Mathematics, again, this is something that we've done in our worksheets. If you can see, you have a problem given, and there is some error that is already there in the problem. So children have to analyze the, they have to identify first, they need to identify what kind of error is there in that particular problem, then they have to correct it. So there's a lot of critical thinking involved while they learn how to solve a problem in this particular manner. Again, this is from math. If you look at it, we always have construction problems where children are asked to construct. But what, instead of just asking them to construct, you ask them to break that construction and look at it in different angle, different perspective. They will definitely learn a lot of skills while doing this. Again, this is complete the steps involved in the construction. This is something that we have given in our text, in our assessment. This is another question from our question paper. If you look at it, 12 farmers harvest the crops in the field in 20 hours. How many more would be required to do the same work in 15 hours? So children had to just not solve the problem. They had to first identify what kind of data was available. From this data, what can be found, and then break the problem. So again, this is in mathematics that we have done. Cross curriculum. This is in one of our worksheets that we have given, where the children had to read this passage that was given and then do the marking. Again, this was done for integers, and you can do a lot of things with height and numbers. A lot of things can be done with this particular kind of a cross curriculum. I'm just going to leave it for a few seconds so that you can see and get an idea. This the teacher had to draw, and then we've done it. So this is again based on story. If you can see, there is also a geography concept involved. There is English reading a story is involved, and a mathematical concept is also involved in this particular problem. English and math. So again, this is a story from Alice, and at the end of it, you can see that it was all about finding out a problem. It's a conversation between the two characters, and if you can see at the end of it, it is how much of money was shared between them. So the whole idea was, like taking English content, and how is it that we could use English content or literature and bring it into math. So again, this is cross curriculum. At the same time, it involves a lot of thinking, because whenever you look at a math problem, it's always given as just numbers. Okay, or when you read a statement problem, it is just a statement. But here, if you look at it, they had to read through the story and understand and identify what the problem was, and then find a solution for the problem. Art and math. Again, there are plethora of questions that can come from this. For example, identifying the different parts of the triangle, congruence of triangle, or whether there was a Pythagoras theorem involved in this different lines. So many questions can come up when you bring in art and math. So this is what we've done in, again, this was in one of our worksheet. Again, this is swimming. So if you look at it, there are a lot of physics concept you can check: surface area, the pressure, the depth, okay, and even the body. If you look at it, if you look at the hand, why do you think swimmers move in that, like have that posture when they actually jump into the swimming pool? There are a lot of questions that you can generate from this particular image as well. There is atmospheric pressure, surface area. A lot of questions can be asked from these. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you have to bring in higher order thinking skills, we must start bringing this into our lesson plans, into our activities, home assignments, worksheets, kind of, like maybe subject enrichment activities that we're planning. And then slowly and gradually, children will be trained to look at these various, higher order thinking skills, and then they will be prepared for the exam. But one fine day, if our exam papers are going to have, if the question papers are going to have higher order thinking skills, and if the children have not been exposed to any kind of higher order thinking skills in their classrooms, then they're going to find it extremely difficult. And this is where the challenge is for all of us. So if, as educators, if we want to bring about a paradigm shift, if you want to bring about higher order thinking skills in the question paper, then we must start looking at it from, like right from the planning stage, that is right from the time when we start preparing the lesson plans, from from delivering it into the classroom. How are we transacting this particular lesson plan in the class? What kind of questions are we generating in the classroom? What kind of questions are we asking as teachers in the classroom? This is where the actual higher order thinking is going to start and originate, and from there we can take it forward. So with this, I'm going to stop sharing. So like anybody would like to ask questions?
Just go ahead, unmute yourself and ask. We can ask the questions. Go ahead, please. If you're in a place where you cannot ask questions, you may even type it in the chat box.
Is there any slide that you want me to take you back, and probably you want to have questions or anything?
Ma'am, could you share the Bloom's taxonomy and just explain it?
1 second. Just give me a moment, please. Okay, so Bloom's taxonomy uh, uh, is a concept that is used by all educators around the world. Now it is again based on how do you frame questions. Like as I said in the question, in the story that we asked, when you generate a question or when you ask a question, these questions can fall under different category. Now, for example, if I were to ask, like how many brothers were there in that story that I narrated, it is just recalling. Okay, that is remember. I'm trying to recall something that I have learned, that is factual information. Understand is again nothing but to comprehend. Okay, if I have to ask a question or like comprehend, why do you think the COVID third wave is coming? So you are trying to understand, you're trying to comprehend what kind of reasons are leading to it. That is comprehension. Now apply. Now, like for example, let's take we show an image of cycle to the children, and again I think I can use the same thing as an example here. So children will learn, okay, this is the wheel, this is the handle, this is the seat, everything. But unless and until they're going to start sitting on the cycle and be able to pedal and move the cycle ahead, that's when they're applying their knowledge, whatever they have learned about cycle. Or it could be, let's take, you've learned profit and loss, or you've learned addition. When you go outside and apply that, well, maybe you've gone to a shop and you bought something, so you apply that skill of mathematics in while you're transacting with the shopkeeper. So therefore you're applying it. Next, moving ahead is analysis. What is the meaning of analysis? Let's take, like you take the information and you break it down. For example, I showed you in that slide, we had this predict what's going to happen. So if at all, let's take, why do you think the 1857 revolt was a big failure? If all of us as being history students, if you know, we came so close to winning it, but we were unable to win. Why do you think we were not able to? Why do you think the Indians were unsuccessful in defeating the Britishers in the 1857 revolt? So you analyze what were the causes that led to it. And when you look at evaluate, again, let's take now, do you think China should be made to pay compensation for the damage that they have caused? Okay, that is something that you can look at, evaluate. Then somebody else might say, what about natural disasters? Do you think every country that is having some kind of natural disaster should pay? A lot of questions can come. Evaluate is again, you judge whether something was like correct or incorrect. It's you're sharing your own personal opinion. Okay, perspective is being shared. And create is when you take something from all this knowledge, information, everything, understanding that you've gathered, and you create something new. For example, let's take the teacher must have taught them what are primary colors and secondary colors. Now, using these colors, if the child has created a new artwork, then that would come under create. Or let's take, if you can use a science information to come up with some new solution or technology, that is create. So this is what the Bloom's taxonomy is. So the questions that we ask in the classroom is generally built on and from the recall to the highest order of thinking. This is Bloom's taxonomy. I hope I have been able to explain.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So is there any, it is showing different layers. It's like a pyramid. So are some of them preferred compared to the others, ma'am?
See, so far, as Lata also said in her introduction, so far in our education system, we've been focusing only on the lower order, that is recall and understanding or comprehension. These were the only two skills that teachers were testing or teaching in the classroom. Now, what the new education policy is emphasizing is again on the higher order thinking skills. Now, why higher order thinking skill? Again, it's because we have to prepare the children for higher education, for the future, where critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, all these skills are becoming very important as never before. So the future is going to be like today we have jobs that are existing today, which was not there 10-20 years ago. We didn't have today. Amazon does not own a single manufacturing unit, but still they are the largest retailers. Then how do you think it's technology? So Swiggy, and if you look at many of the industries today that are existing, these industries or these companies were not existing few years ago, but today they're existing. In the same way, we don't know what kind of job opportunities might come up in the future. So if we have to prepare the children for future, then we really need to empower our children with a lot of critical thinking, problem solving, or these kind of higher order thinking skills that will help them as they grow up. And because NEP is also shifting, they are shifting the way assessment has been done in India. They are trying to bring about a shift in that. So therefore, we need to change it. That's the reason why today the focus is on higher order thinking skills.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes.
Manjula.
Tell me.
Now, in the remembering level, that when the children ask questions like CQs or one word answers and all, so the same question, if they can prepare one quiz type using technology in the new type of they can apply this Kaun Banega Crorepati style. So
yes.
can it be called as a creative also there?
You can certainly. Yeah. So, and in fact, if you've seen, CBSE also has brought in MCQs for grade 9, 10. This time, they are bringing that in the new assessment. I think just yesterday they had their session workshops were done for that. So multiple choice questions are being brought in a big way. And yes, so the way you're going to frame the multiple choice questions is also has to be creative, and it also has to be, it has to challenge the children as well. Yes, you certainly can bring in these in your multiple choice questions and recall questions or knowledge based questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank
you. Ma'am. Ma'am, in one of your slides, you said you can teach grammar using these, I think,
advertisements.
Was it advertisement? I don't know.
Yes, it was advertisements. So we had taken this different.
Give an example on that, ma'am. How should I teach tense using that?
See, like you can ask them to change. You can ask them to rewrite that same rewrite the word in a different in a different voice, using a different voice, maybe past or whatever tense you are checking, or it could be even the like grammar. You can change the adjective in that, or you could change the grammar tense in that, or the voice in that. So you can ask them to change. Again, it depends on what kind of grammar topics are you looking at. Or maybe you can also take the cartoon strips. If you look at our everyday newspaper, you have the Times of India has so many different cartoon strips. So you have the cartoon conversations already there. So you can give the same cartoon and you can ask them to, reframe the sentences or dialogue writing. So these are the different ways through which you can bring in cartoons or even advertisements. You can ask them to give a product. You can give a product and then ask them to create a tagline for that or create an advertisement content for that. So again, your writing skills can be tested, grammar skills can be tested. So these are the different ways you can bring in advertisements into the English classes or grammar concept or anything that you're teaching.
Can I add one more to what you said?
Yes, certainly, sure.
Yeah. So Veena ma'am, what happens? Lot of children think if it comes in print, it is correct. They have this idea that if it comes in print, it has to be right. Not necessarily so. You can actually ask them to find the errors. For instance, we take this McDonald's, the golden arch, the M below that, I am loving it. We ask them, it is grammatically incorrect, but it is all across the world. A lot of children think that's the right way of saying it. It is incorrect. So you have to teach them simple present tense. It has to be I love it. But just to make it, they're saying I'm loving it. So we can tell them that there is an incorrect grammar structure. But because it's an advertisement, you can take the creative liberty and you can go ahead and do this. The same goes for spellings in advertisement. A lot of people write create with a K and not with a C. Yeah, you can have multiple reasons why you do it, but as long as children know the right spelling and then they use the incorrect spelling for creative purposes, it's okay. Unfortunately, many people don't know the difference, and that's where teachers need to step in. Thank you. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And
much,
we can also take up advertisements and use it as a reading and comprehension. Let's take, there is an environment awareness poster that has been created or something else. You can use those. We have taken different kinds of advertisements and used it as reading and comprehension. So that is something that you can think about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Shaheen. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Ma'am, can we do same thing with the pre-primary classes like UKG or first class?
Yes, you can give them newspaper. Give them newspaper and ask them to identify alphabets in that. As you start doing the blends, you can ask them to do that, or sight words can be asked. So there are a lot of ways you can, actually give them this print material and use it. So in our school, we've done that. Newspaper, you can give the newspaper to them and ask them to identify. If you're teaching alphabets, you can ask them to circle those alphabets. You can also use them to, identify the sight words in that. So these are the two things that we have done in our school.
Right. I'm also doing, but can we say, is it a part of creative enhancement or HOTS?
It certainly part of HOTS? The child is able to recognize. Most often, probably when you give an alphabet, he is recognizing it only in that particular page where he's tracing it, he or she's tracing it, or like writing it. But when they see it in print, they're also learning how to, they are able to recognize. That means there are so many other alphabets. And if you've taught them alphabet T or B or D and you're asking them to just identify one particular alphabet, it does require a lot of the child to read that information, segregate the others, and identify the one that he is looking for. So there's certainly a lot of skills that is involved in that entire process.
Right, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, relating to the nursery section, handwriting, ma'am, I don't know whether it's the right platform to ask. Teaching cursive handwriting, whether all schools teaching cursive handwriting for the lower classes, is it necessary? Because now in future, it most probably it was going to be in digital. Is it right, or is it necessary? I just want a general question.
Again, I think it's the individual school's choice, but we at school start teaching cursive writing in UKG. Okay, but if we were to ask me, I feel cursive writing is not a skill that the child can learn in 1 year's time or even 6 months of time. It is built in the formative years. If you see the kindergarten, that is UKG, first, second, third, that's when they're learning to form their own strokes and patterns and other things. So they will need time to build these skills, and probably I would say by the time they come to second or third, they have learned how to write in cursive writing. So it does require time. It is not something that you can teach in 6 months of time. We need to give the time for the children, and then they have to learn. They need a lot of corrections in the process, but it is something that they develop over at least 2-3 years of time. And again, not many of them insist, but I feel it is individual schools' choice there.
Okay, but it's not necessary also, because you were asking one question in 2030, in 2040s, what exactly we want to think. So
to answer you that, Steve Jobs, when he went to college, he was a dropout, that all of us know. But the only subject that he had taken was calligraphy, how to write. And because of that, the font has changed. We've got so many fonts. So if Steve Jobs had not taken calligraphy lessons in his college, I think our fonts would be very boring and very dry. So today, whatever you can see, and he was the first one to bring in that kind of different styles of writing in Word and other, the things, the styles. So it is because of that. So you can't say it is not needed. Today also, there are a lot of people who do indulge in calligraphy as an art and other things. So I would say that whatever we teach the children, it will be somewhere relevant. They will certainly apply it in some aspect of their life, or some other way. See, all of us, none of us, I think I went for typing during my summer break when I was in 10th or 11th, I think. And after that, I've never used it in my, I never took up typing anywhere. But today when I'm using my laptop, it's much easier for me. I can type it much faster because I went for my typing lessons so many decades ago.
Yes.
I would feel that it is those skills that can be of use anytime in the future as well.
But how? Yes, ma'am, that's right. Right answer. And I have a question. How can we predict, like your question was, like in 2030, how what changes it may happen? So how can we predict, 20 years before?
Nobody can predict.
Yeah.
As I said, it's very uncertain future. But if you see the industry norms, everybody is talking about how artificial intelligence or robotics or Internet of Things or big data, all these things are going to come and play an important role in our everyday life. According to industry experts, they say that it's not just specialization of one subject, but multidisciplinary approach is what is going to be the future. But whatever it may be, like see today, I'm giving you a very small example. When the lockdown was suddenly announced, many of us may not have had the groceries that was required for such a long period of time. But all of us learned to manage within that resources that we had at home and continued to cook our meals, right? So that is a skill that we learn. In the same way, for the future, which is unpredictable and you don't know what kind of job trends might be there, but children need to be able to adapt. Okay, so adaptability is very important. That is why you're talking about emotional agility. Okay, you're also talking about life skills. You're also talking about problem solving skills. You're talking about critical thinking skills. These skills will act as the foundation on which they can develop other skill set or knowledge and other things that is required.
Yes, ma'am, rightly said. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I just have one announcement. Like, teachers, please fill up the feedback form. It will be of much use to us. And then if you have any specific topics that you would like us to take up towards NEP, it will be great. We also have our plans. It will be good to get some input. Thank you. Yeah, ma'am.
Ma'am, excuse me, when will be the next session?
We have it every Saturday between 5 and 6:30, ma'am. Every Saturday.
Okay, how am I supposed to get the link?
If you can just put, share your in the feedback form, if you can share your contact details, you will automatically be included in the next.
Yeah, I have filled the feedback form. I have given my telephone number and mail ID there. So from there, will I be getting?
You will be getting, and also Seema has shared the WhatsApp group of educators. If you can join any group, whichever based on your state, it will be great because automatically it goes.
I actually tried doing there, ma'am. I wanted to join Tamil Nadu Educators Group, but somehow some update, it went wrong and I couldn't. So
you can do it even now. You just go ahead and do that.
Fine, ma'am.
Go ahead and try and do it. Otherwise, if you have the link, we will any which way send it to you. And teachers, please do register for Teachathon. We will be sending the details this week. Thank you so much. Teachathon, the entire focus is on NEP, how you can implement it in your schools. And we have a short competition before that. And after that, the entire implementation details would come in. Yeah. Any other questions for Vidya ma'am? from the audience?
Good evening, everyone. It is not a question, but I want to really appreciate Vidya for the lot of information that she has gathered and which she has presented so effectively and so adorably. And I just wish to tell everybody who is listening that there is so much creativity, so much possibility in applying all those information that she has given. And with that, people can really find a lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of challenges, a lot of satisfaction. Both the students and the teachers together can do wonderful things. I just want to make that observation and encourage all of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Ma'am, can you introduce yourself? I just don't see a proper name there, so.
Lalita, ma'am.
No, the Sumati is there. I am Lalita.
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, my granddaughter registered like that. She entered that Zoom details like that. So I continue to be a big now. I don't know how to change it. Yeah.
You just have to rename yourself, ma'am. But anyway,
yeah.
We are glad to have you again, ma'am. I know you used to be a regular earlier, so we're glad to have you here.
No. Sometimes I just listen, okay? So today I just wanted to say, because Vidya has given such a wide, long list of all the possibilities. So I want everyone to try out. And then you will find that there's this infinity around them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you, Vidya ma'am. It was really good, very interesting topic, which is very, very close to all of us at IIM. We go ahead and we do this training to teachers, and we have this wonderful, and we can take a lot of input from this session as well. Thank you so much.
See, I intentionally did not share a lot of resources that CBSE already has put up on their website. So they also have model question papers based on the higher order thinking skills and competency based questions. So as teachers, I'm very sure those are on public domains. You can actually go and download this question paper. So whatever I've included here, I tried to see what is it apart from that, what are the other things that schools can do. That was my objective as well.
Thank you
nice,
so much.
Very nice.
Yeah, Sumati.
Yeah. Yes, Lata, we can close it. Thanks a lot, Vidya.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much once again.